come back?
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Do we have any more comments for the public hearing on this matter?
I understand there was some written comment. I don't know how you enter that into the record.
Written comments.
Some letters from citizens.
They go into the correspondence
log.
file. Joe's been putting them in.
They go to Joe.
They go to Joe, and we make sure it's in there. Okay? Any other comments, folks? Okay, then do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So the next item then is on the agenda is the adopting the local law. This is Resolution 2022-1, no, I'm sorry, it's 2023. Joe will give us the number, right? Number one?
Yeah, 168.
2023?
Yeah.
168?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 2023-168.
No,
Yes.
22.
20,
Oh, so we still keep
No,
the
still
old?
keep the old number. The local law changed to local law 1 of 2023.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get.
Yes. Exactly.
So it's 2023-1.
Well,
Correct.
right now, you're just adopting the negative deck.
Okay.
Resolution 2022 dash.
Okay, so we still keep the 2022.
Yeah,
Okay,
that doesn't-
okay. So Resolution 2022-168, resolution adopting negative declaration for local law number 1 of the year 2023, entitled "A Local Law to Eliminate the Authority for Design Residential Development in the Town of Wappinger." This is set forth in our packet, what's been published. Do I have any?
I would like to make an amendment to that resolution,
To the negative deck.
to the negative deck, and I'll read it and provide a copy to you. After reviewing the 2010 comprehensive plan, the town board feels that the repeal of 24050 and the use of the conservation subdivisions is the most appropriate method for achieving the affordable housing goals as set forth in the latest comprehensive plan. The 2010 Conservation Plan considered the design residential development provisions and suggested that it be changed, and other provisions of the comprehensive plan recommended a different method to create affordable housing. At page 36, the 2010 Comprehensive Plan states, "The establishment of specific mapped affordable workforce and senior housing overlay districts over a very limited number of single-family districts that would permit a developer to apply for density bonuses in exchange for providing affordable workhouse housing or senior housing in conservation open space subdivisions on sites located within the districts. In these cases, development below R20 district requirements would not be permitted, and the projects would each need to include a substantial open space component." The 2010 Comprehensive Plan at page 35 recommends amending 24050 with a more streamlined approval process, as well as enacting conservation subdivision provisions. The conservation subdivision provisions found in 24019B are more streamlined than 24050 and are part of the procedure for providing affordable housing set forth above. Conservation subdivisions permit up to 4 multifamily units per structure. In addition, the threshold criteria for 24050 regarding collector roads are not consistent with the current comprehensive plan, and 24050 does not encourage development in existing centers where they can be served by existing roads, utilities, and community facilities. Conservation subdivisions provide an alternative to provide affordable multi-family housing in a manner consistent with the town's current comprehensive plan, and gives the town board authority to focus the development into existing centers where there is sufficient infrastructure to support the development. The comments of the Dutchess County Planning are noted, but it's the opinion of the town board that the conservation subdivision suggested by the 2010 comprehensive plan is a better alternative for advancing sustainable, affordable housing in the town of Wappingers.
So do I?
That comment will go into the
For
next
the next one
resolution
too,
as well.
Joe? Okay, I have a motion to
I'll
adopt
make,
the amendment.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the negative declaration.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. As amended, right?
As amended.
As amended, okay. Aye, any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next resolution is Resolution 2022-169, resolution adopting local law number 1 of 2023, a local law to eliminate the authority for designed residential development in the town of Wappinger. And there's a motion to amend similarly, as you just know.
With the same amendment, I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to adopt the amended resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt the amended
Second.
resolution.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Okay, and the resolution's passed. Okay. Thank you. That's the end of that matter for tonight. Okay, thank you. Thank you. See you. Okay, now we move on to some discussion items. So the first item for discussion is relating to veterans. Actually, we have a,
Is there a public portion?
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, there is a public portion, thank you. I apologize. So do I have a motion to open public portion for on
So
these
moved.
discussion?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the public portion's open. So if anybody has any comments relating to the items on number 7 and number 8, please come on up, state your name and your points you'd like to raise with us.
How are you?
Good
All right.
Good evening.
This good? You can hear me good?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. My name is William Jordan. I'm here as president of the Youth Wappingers Football. I am here today to speak on behalf of the organization. Going a few years back, around 2014, I was told that Wappingers Youth Football had put out a proposal for building some sports facilities in the town of Wappinger. And football fields at the Robinson Lane facility. For some reason, the proposal fell on deaf ears. Today, I'm here to express we, as an organization, are committed ensuring the youth of our town have the best sports fields, equipment, and support facilities possible. Our plan would include collaboration with town officials and political leaders. We will work from the ground up to support youth sports in Wappingers. My organization and I feel it's long overdue for some sort of community center sports facility be built in the town of Wappingers. East Fishkill has one, as well as Arlington. These facilities are used all year long. Sorry. They bring in revenue for their towns. This can only be beneficial to our town. I think that building a turf field is a win-win for both the kids and the town. The potential revenue I see, for example, are sponsorship. Some examples are field ads, scoreboards, benches, bleachers, as well as website ads. We can do field rental where we can charge $250 to $300 an hour. We can add $3 to $5 annually for registration. Host sports-related dinners and events. Also potential retractable bubble over the turf for winter events. These are just some examples of revenue that we could bring in. In closing, we just want to promote opportunities for athletics for all residents of Wappingers by the development of community partnership to provide athletic fields for Wappinger students, civic groups, and communities at large. Thank you.
I have a couple questions, but
Absolutely.
thank you first, for that. What is you said there's a previous proposal, but what would be the acreage, the amount of space that you need for a field that you're proposing, or for a field?
That I would have to
complex?
look into. I don't know that
Okay.
offhand right now. I do have some of the work, the paperwork that was proposed in 2014. I have to look at it. I have all that paperwork back at the house. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it with me.
Okay. And then another question, how many youth do you have in your league?
Youth right now, I think we're close to 67 and we're growing.
Okay.
And
So-
it was good. And what we want to do is make a sports facility for both, which unfortunately Wappingers lacrosse didn't make it here tonight. But
Right.
we want to make it a multiplex field. So you're also talking about Wappingers lacrosse as well as a youth football,
Okay.
being able to share that field.
Bill, do you remember the proposal back in 2014, or?
I don't remember specifically, but I know there was property that we had been looking at, and something did not.
Yeah, something fell wayside. Like I said, I have all the paperwork and I have all the numbers,
Yeah.
what it was going to cost us. And I don't know if we still fall under, because I think it was good for 10 years. That's why I came now, because I wanted
Hmm. Sure.
to see if we got it before the 10-year mark came up, because then you'd have to do all that work again in the surveys and
Sure,
everything like
understood.
that.
Could you pull together that file and, bring it
Send
to
it
my
to us.
office, and then I can distribute to?
Yeah,
to
whatever
the board
paperwork I
members?
have, I can give you
Yeah,
guys.
whatever you have,
Okay.
if you would, that would be great. That
Okay,
would
that's
help.
I'll take a look at my records
Yeah.
also.
I think
So is your proposal that the town would buy the property, build the turf field, and then you'd be responsible for making the payments? Because it's a pretty expensive venue if you're going to do it. We're looking at some property, I think Supervisor and I were looking at some of the property, and it's going to be expensive. Plus, if you put in a field in, you're probably looking at a couple $1 million. I don't know, Tim, if that's what you're looking at, $2 to $4 million. So again, to do a combined football lacrosse, so it's a pretty big expense.
Right, and then also, like I said, you can use it for other events as well.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I'd love to see it, and when I
me
went
too,
to
right?
Virginia, I loved lacrosse, and, did
Well,
that.
lacrosse has become pretty big up. It's
But,
starting to get bigger.
I think, I think, speaking for myself, but the board, we really would be, we are interested in exploring more about this. So whatever files, we have our engineers that do work in this area. As the councilman said, we are looking at some other options for other, land.
And then also Legislator Joe Cavaccini
Yeah, but this town issue, so.
said that he
So is
supports
this-
us as well.
Was this the facility that was proposed for?
It was on Robinson Lane. It was supposed to be on Robinson Lane.
There's
Supposedly,
61
Toll
acres on
Brothers,
Robinson Lane. I think.
Toll Brothers had give us $1 million to put it up too, from what I hear, and we don't know where that money went.
Contrail, dedicated property to the town.
But I saw
At the
one.
time of total
Right.
Regency, when that was approved, there was a donation, when that
Oh,
plan was
yeah,
filed,
yeah.
there was a donation of property to the
North.
northeast.
Yeah, we own that property.
Right.
There was an issue with wetlands, I believe. We have to
I
look
mean,
at-
I looked at it, but it has good draining and a lot of other things that you could have. That was the one that I recalled seeing something in reference, maybe
Yeah, I mean,
Bob
there
Gray had
was
done a study or
some-
something.
Is that over by where the bridge is?
I don't know if it's, no, it's not that.
No,
If you're going down Robinson, if you're
Yeah,
going
it's-
into the park, it's on the left, it's to the left.
right, so if you're going towards the town of LaGrange,
Behind the hose?
Over on
when you pass Ralph Holt Way, going towards the town of LaGrange,
Oh, it's out that far?
Yeah.
you'll see at the next parcel, you'll see a chain, hopefully it's still there, might not still be there. There's a chained property that we own. There's an entire tract of land that we own. It's on
Right.
parcel access. That might be that parcel that we received during the Regency transaction.
Correct.
The question of usability had to do with, at that time, there were real drainage problems on the property. There were downstream obstructions on the Sprout Creek.
Right.
And it was pushing back a lot of water on that property. In fact, the berm going back to 2008 or 9, that berm that was built by Graham Foster, which you can see in Robinson Lane
Yeah.
behind those ball fields, is actually adjacent to the property that we received.
The other thing we ought to consider too is if we're looking at football and lacrosse, we have some issues with soccer fields where there's a lot of water, like Airport Drive. So if we're going to look at
Two
a
fields.
couple of fields.
Well, there's a
So if we're
couple
going
fields
to look at this, we want to make sure it's a big enough facility. Maybe we can accommodate, like you said, multiple
Well,
sports.
right, then you would have to then you're looking at more money, obviously, because they're going to need to upgrade
then
upgrade
we
the
look
fields,
at-
because Robinson Lane floods as well.
So I think you just bring your proposal forward, dust it
I'll
off,
bring
see
out
what
all
you have,
the
send it to us. and-
because like I said, it showed a breakdown of, paying for
Yeah,
the
that would be
drainage,
great.
and I'll give you guys that.
And then we could look forward to have more discussion.
Okay.
Maybe, meeting and, all shirt sleeves, and then, of course, here. at the
Excellent.
Board meeting.
I appreciate that.
Everybody's interested in it,
Yes.
so.
Well, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments with respect to the agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to close the public?
Make a motion?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing the motion pass. So when we get to some of these other items, we can, have some other discussion. But the first item then is, as I said, relating to, veterans. So Todd and I had been talking a while back with respect to parking sign. I asked him to do some work, and then Kevin, when Todd's, you can chime in on the sign because we've had you involved, and then you can update the board on a couple other
I
things.
showed Kevin the design, and he likes it. So it started out with reaching out to Dutchess Pro Print to get the design, but unfortunately, a material that Steve said we needed, which is the UV reflective material, they don't provide. So Dutchess Pro Print actually donated us the design. Fast Signs is going to print it up for us. So if you see what I passed out before the meeting, it's a quote, $75.70 for the sign, and Steve said his guys can put it in place for us. The parking spot will be decided on the town board. So it's a .063 aluminum, 12 by 8, with UV reflective gloss, and then the
How
design.
long does it take to get it?
A few weeks.
A few weeks, okay.
Yeah, won't take long. And then we're also looking to do a small revealing of it also,
Unveiling of it.
which want
Yeah.
approval.
And we can
to-
decide which spot,
Yeah.
and designate it. I said, are there different colors? The handicap's the blue, right? Is there anything for veterans that has been established? Kevin?
I think that at Home Depot, they use a mauve or purple.
Oh, yeah, that's what they were doing there, and was the village purple too? I think so, maybe.
It was white.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
That sounds good.
Purple's good.
Yeah. So what's the total cost?
$75.70.
$75. Yes, Todd's put a lot of work into getting
With-
that, and actually Dutchess,
Yeah, Dutchess Pro Print donated the design.
they've really been generous.
So unless there's any objections, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 7570 to get the veteran sign.
Second.
On the question, why don't we do more than one? Why
That's
not
what I was
do
just
two?
going to
You do that
suggest.
too?
That's fine,
fine.
absolutely.
At
Why don't we
least
do
3.
two? I mean,
Yeah.
or whatever.
One on each side or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
So
one on each side of the building, I think, would
Yeah.
be appropriate, so
I'll make,
if you
I'll
want
make
to
an,
amend it.
I'll make an amended motion that we approve 2 signs, so double that, so
Okay.
roughly 150.
Okay. And did you check with, Frederick's not here, what line that would come out? Maybe even just town board line?
Yeah,
something like
just
that.
take it out of town
We'll
board.
just do that. Oh, okay.
He's already got one.
Steve already has it.
Unless Steve wants to give us money from his budget, okay, thanks. We're talking about
Steve, so
$150
will
here.
that be in place in 2024?
How about by Veterans Day of '23? We do that?
That would,
Yeah.
that would be,
How
Well,
about,
no,
how about by
actually-
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day, yeah.
Yeah.
Or something. Anyway, okay.
Okay.
All right.
When it comes in, we can have it up when it is paid.
Excellent.
Thanks,
please.
Steve.
Thank you.
I don't think there was ever a vote on that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get to it. I was just going to say one thing. Also, Steve, thanks for putting in the bench for the seniors, because of the dial ride and so forth. There's a bench right outside the door, if you notice it. It was part of the discussions we had.
Down this end?
Yeah, at that end. So Steve,
Yep.
they were waiting for the right weather.
I saw him putting that in the rain one day.
Yeah, but thank you. Kevin, welcome.
I want to talk briefly.
Oh, yeah, it's a motion. That's.
Side motion, and we got a second,
Motion,
and-
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk briefly about a New York State Division of Veteran Services. It's a veterans nonprofit capital program. What I have here is a request for grant applications. What they're talking about is between $25,000 and $75,000 grants because the state is awarding $5 million to this grant. So it's for all veterans organizations. They're wanting to see veterans organizations which are 501c3, which is what the WVA is. And it's strictly for capital programs. So, in other words, buildings, and the WVA does not have any buildings. So that I was hoping to get some ideas from the town board. And what I could do is drop off a copy. Actually, Maria has a copy of this grant, which we could make more copies and circulate it to the board.
Please.
So, all right, and after that, then we could talk about some ideas.
But, yeah, be thinking of ideas, that you have. Kevin and I have discussed a couple. We'll, be open for more discussion on that, so,
Thank you.
Okay.
okay?
So naturally, it's a reimbursement,
Right.
which is not a large problem.
Right, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Kevin,
Thank you,
the
Kevin.
5K run walk is still being planned for when?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I was looking over costs for last year, and we're going to make a couple of modifications. And I have my donation team chomping at the bit, ready to go out and talk to people.
April, around the same time?
April 15.
April 15th.
Yes,
So everybody mark
April
your calendars,
15.
April 15th. Okay.
Philip would like to have two 5Ks this year, but I don't think we're ready for that.
I think we need more volunteers, residents.
Yes, we do.
We need a lot more in the way of volunteers to pull off some of the other programs that Kevin and I and others are talking about, so.
Maybe you can reach out to the high school students, get them involved.
In my dealings with the American Legion programs, it's extremely difficult to get into the high schools. The high school kids aren't even going after scholarships this year or last year. We don't know what's going on, and that's from some secretaries down at John Jay. I will continue to try and get into Ketchum, where I
We're
have...
just letting the parents
Kim.
know that this is out there and their kids are more than welcome to participate in such an
Well,
important...
there should be no question, because there
Right.
are children, are students who are willing
wanna
to
do this.
participate. It's just a matter of reaching them.
Yeah, just put it on the website, maybe. This is where you can
That'd be a good
have your
idea.
kid sign up if they're interested in helping us out with the veterans. Thank you so much.
That'd be a good idea.
Kevin, work with Todd because he, gets Interact, and that's the Rotary.
yes, and the Rotary, that's
They've
right.
helped us out on other events such as Community Day, so
Yes.
you can reach out to him too if you need some help.
Yes.
I'm an auxiliary member of the VFW in Officers, and maybe that's something we can take up as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good. Okay.
seriously.
Yeah, so
yeah.
coordinate with Kevin on that,
I'll
Jerry.
be
Thank
stopping
you.
in.
Thanks, Jerry.
There is one other thing, and that's the cost of the banner program. I was hoping to have a price increase because the shipping costs have quadrupled. I don't know what times 5 is, but it's approaching that too. It's like $175 for 15 banners.
15.
And my profit margin never was that large. It was about $35 a banner. Now it's shrunken down to about $10 a banner. And I spend at home, I spend computer ink and computer paper and my time. So I think that if we can't come up with a better way of shipping, and I've already received that additional amount from new people, and there is no pushback on that, unless you've heard something that I haven't.
Could you send me the shipping information?
Yes, I will.
Because that's what I do.
Yes.
Yeah, but
We'll take
let
a
me
look at
know
that.
too, because
All right.
I have a contact that might be able to help.
All right, now the
Freebie.
vendor that I use they've consolidated, they've gobbled up other companies, and finally they've been taken over by a corporation, and their efficiency has not gotten any better. Their accounting department changes their software with every merger. So I'm looking for another banner producer. I stopped into the place next to Florina's on 82, and the fellow's going to look to see what his vendor out in California can do. And I'm going to look closely at it. And I gave him a sample.
What do the other towns use? What vendors do they use?
Believe it or not, the other towns are very closed-mouthed. Most of them are using the vendor that I have in Pennsylvania, but I haven't talked to anybody to find out what their satisfaction is.
Maybe we reach out to them and see if we can do like a joint thing.
Well, I think Hopewell uses Star Printing,
Well, you
so
got
they really
Beacon.
keep it close.
Yeah, but you have Beacon, you have, Wappinger,
Right.
you have Fishkill. So maybe, there's an avenue we
Yeah.
can pursue.
Well, it's unfortunate that I have to go in that direction because of the people I've spoken with. Our banners are what we have here, they are the prettiest. They're the most wholesome, and they're the easiest to read although some people
Right.
have told me that they couldn't read a name on a banner. It's just a matter of slowing down, but the
Thank you.
lettering is much larger. And, oh, by the way, we're going out onto New Hamburg Road. We're starting in Houstonville, and we're going to get people down New Hamburg Road down towards the train station. So we're spreading out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'd like to make a recommendation to the board that we move up one of the line items, because most of the other line items that we have for discussion are internal. So if we could move number 8 up now
Right,
for the
yeah.
United Wappers
Yeah.
Water District Tenancy Agreement.
Correct.
This way we can get Mr. Romig out.
Yep,
So
no, I agree. Rick, come on up. And then what I discussed with his honor is he has need for
Good evening.
some water,
Good evening.
tenancy agreement until we decide on whether or not, or to what extent we're going to be extending any water districts, but he has water right in front of, alongside of his property, all right, Mr. Rand?
Yes.
And so, Jim, we had talked last week, and was to do a standard tenancy agreement. Jim had calculated numbers, but it's the same agreement, just substituting name and address and the fee for that agreement. But, Rick, I don't want to steal your thunder, so go ahead, address the board, please.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. Been a long day. Got court first thing in the morning. I have a well that doesn't produce a lot. At some point, I want to sell the property and retire. And I think it'll be more attractive to have water available. And I appreciate whatever you can do to accommodate me.
Jim, you had looked at what the
Yeah,
fee
so-
cost would be.
So
and-
there's 3 parcels involved here. 8 Barristers Row, 3 McFarland, and 9 McFarland.
9 McFarland is vacant property, approximately 1.3 acres. And then there's the island in the middle that I've
Right.
been taking care of all these years. I picked that up from the county, I don't know, maybe about 7 years ago, something like that.
So, under the code, the buy-in fee is $3,200. Rick and I had a discussion regarding his law office, which probably uses less water than a residence. So,
If I may, on Saturday and Sunday, it uses no water at all.
so I think a $3,200 buy-in fee is appropriate for that parcel. So the tenancy agreement is in place. I guess I don't know. I don't believe there's a hookup for the island.
The hookup for 8 Barristers Row, my office, is right at the driveway on the opposite side. You got the mailbox on one side, so that would be the north side. So there's,
So it's your, if you want to pay the buy-in fee for the island, whether it ever gets connected.
I think I'll sit tight on that for now.
Yeah, so
So the island, what could actually be put on the island?
probably nothing.
I was just going to say.
The whole reason for me
nothing.
purchasing the island is I had a hot dog truck show up one day. I have people selling cars. It wasn't my property, so I really had no standing to keep them off. But
Okay.
it's
But now it does.
maybe a hot dog truck for a veteran.
So you have the agreement already drawn up, set to go? Do you need to send that to the board now before, or can we do something with it tonight, or?
I'll send it to.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same tenancy agreement we've approved many other times, so.
Same like the ones we've had on like Old Hopewell Road
All
for
Angels, we
All
did
Angels,
the
okay.
property on Old
You know,
Angels and on New Hampshire.
Old Hopewell, New Hamburg were those properties. So other than substituting the name, address, the ownership, and the fee.
Right, and, part of the agreement is that the owner of the property consents to the extension of the district at the time that it gets extended, which hopefully will be soon.
That's our understanding.
Right,
I mean, that the extension is fine, and
Yeah.
I agree to be in the district.
yes,
So do you have 8 Barrister, 3, and 9 McFarland?
yes.
Okay.
So, you know, if no issue, then.
So can the board approve it tonight?
To approve it and
Second.
authorize me to sign it, I'll get a copy to you. Chip.
I have a resolution, we had a resolution
Yeah.
prepared, so.
Jim had prepared it just.
Okay.
We extended this water, and there's no reason why we should restrict this water.
Agreed.
If someone wants to connect to it, the pipe is in front of their house. Back when we did this extension for the purposes of improving the hydraulics of that portion of the water line. It's also done for public safety purposes, but we have individuals that want to connect.
Right.
We offer them the tenancy opportunity. We didn't want to present this in a way that forced people to connect that had wells. So now we're to the point where we have folks that want to
Exactly.
connect. I have certainly no objection to
Yes.
this.
Yep.
Where does the water line actually go?
That one
Yeah.
comes back around.
It's a loop.
So
It loops
with a
in.
loop, that was a loop that was created from, so at the time Adams was put in,
Right,
the water was extended to Adams.
right.
And then, as part of the improvements that were made for the extension of the water line down to the DEP water site, this water line ran from Adams south on the east side of Route 9 down to McFarland Road, and then ran up McFarland Road to Whitegate condominiums.
Right.
Because there was an end, it was a dead end.
Right.
So this was created to loop, to create a hydraulic loop back up to.
Right, it was, as Bob Gray put it, it was a healthy thing to do for the water system at that point. My perspective was it improves public safety for Scarborough Lane, Carnaby Street, and Whitegate Road, which are multi-dwelling complexes that have water systems that are subpar. It also allows for folks that live on McFarland Road to have this opportunity to connect, and that's why I support this.
That's very important
Yeah,
that people are
exactly.
aware of that fact, that they do have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, for administrative purposes, there was, I believe there was a district, I don't know, John, district extension plan. But, so the reason why the district was not extended at the time the improvements were created was because the town had made a commitment to supply water for the construction at the DEP site. Since the construction has more or less, well, for one, the water that was used at the construction site was substantially less than what was anticipated before the job started. So there is ample water that was available based on that. Plus, at the time also, the time the loop was created, the Meadowwood wells were not online. And that was also, so at the time that was done, the town had Toll Brothers do the Meadowwood loop at the time Regency went in. So these two kind of worked at, this was a slightly later, I believe, roughly the same time.
But it's good information that the residents there know that they have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm happy to help, of course, a constituent, by all means, because our plan is to get it down Route 9,
Yes.
so we can get it over to Smithtown and every place else.
yeah.
That's our future.
Jim, would you read the resolution that you have?
Sure. So it's whereas 8 Barristers Row, 3 McFarland and 9 McFarland are supplied with water from a well. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. Whereas 8 Barristers Row and 3 McFarland Road and 9 McFarland Road are supplied with water from wells that have limited capacity, and whereas the owners have requested to enter into a tenancy agreement for the supply of water from the United Wappinger Water District to serve their properties until such time as the United Wappinger Water District is extended to include the properties, and whereas the connection of the property to the United Wappinger Water main located in a town right-of-way is a Type 2 action under State Environmental Quality Review Act pursuant to seeker, whereas the attorney to the town has drafted a water tenancy agreement to supply water to the properties, now therefore be it resolved. Town board hereby finds and determines the project is a Type 2 action under seeker. Town Board hereby approves the water tenancy agreements with the owners in the form attached here too. Town Board hereby authorizes and directs a majority of the Town Board to sign the water tenancy agreement on behalf of the United Wappinger Water District pursuant to Town Law 19811. Town Board hereby directs that a copy of the executed water tenancy agreement be provided to the Water and Sewer Department and Building Department, Water and Sewer Department and Building Department to establish the necessary water accounts. The Town Board hereby directs that a copy of the executed water tenancy agreement be filed in the records of the town clerk.
Angela, do you want to move?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
That's
Seeing
fine.
none, motion passed.
Sorry.
Thank you, have a good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Kodak moment, right?
Yeah. Maybe, since we jumped around, I know Jerry gets up early to try to
Yes,
take
Jerry,
care of
Jerry,
it.
Jerry, let's
You know,
move him
so for
off.
Jerry,
Jerry, come on.
Owen, you want to come on up and speak about the contract proposal, what you've been doing and the
Good-
issues
good-
that
yeah, good evening.
started this.
Yeah, I was rather surprised when I received the new contract from HFARS, which is our existing, well, was our existing shelter. And the first thing that stood out, I don't have to go into too much detail, but they, if you look, I don't even know what page it is, it's a dog housing retainer, it'll be on page 3. Page 3D, dog housing retainer. The town will, upon returning the dog control housing agreement, they execute the president, submit a payment in the form of a check made payable to HFARS in the amount of $5,000. This is a non-refundable retainer for all costs associated with the housing of animals for the town of Wappingers. We've never had to pay that kind of money for a year at all. I mean, normally $900 is the norm. And then, of course, that was the key issue. And then, the vaccination charges went up from 15, 25, and 35 to $50 for each rabies vaccination, distemper, and bordetella. And they also made it a note to say that if the owner was not found and they did keep the dogs, that if no such owner was said to be redeemed, such vaccines would be covered by the town. So we'd have to pay that in addition. As far as there's another issue with dogs running at large, not redeemed by the owner. HFARS would invoice the town boarding fee of $75 per day. The town must pay for 2 weeks of quarantine boarding for the initial date of seizure along with all vaccines. So it's just, they obviously didn't want to do this anymore because that's not something we're going to do. But I was able to, thank gosh for my resources and some people I've been working with for a long time. There's a gal named Karen LeCain, and she has Compassion Animal Rescue that she's been developing for years, and now she's got a boarding facility on 376. And she's going to be able to do the rabies vaccines for $15, distemper for $25, and bordetella for $30. And she's charging the residents $30 a day for boarding.
That's
And there's no
phenomenal,
mandatory deposit and non-refundable type of thing. I really think that this is our way to go, and it seems like it's a viable
And her
very convenient place.
The
Yeah.
facilities are up to par
Oh,
for
yeah,
what you
oh,
need.
yeah, yeah. They've been inspected. Egg and Markets obviously has been there, and they will look at it again once this contract is signed. And so I think that's a great thing for us to be able to have.
You have good friends and good places, because I went through this and I did see
Well, I'll tell you, they're running out, man, I'm
I
telling you
know,
what.
but I did see this location and I commend her.
Yeah.
I do. So
I'm
thank you for
also-
bringing this to us.
And I have a third one. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Josephine Santaro, but she's been trying to, and has getting a facility up near Greenhaven Prison, Safe Haven, it's called. We collect donations here for her.
I have dealt with,
And as allowed by New York State Egg and Markets, we can also sign some type of secondary agreement if we need to have secondary housing
At
as
that
I
location.
provide for the town, and have been inspected, to provide temporary housing for dogs, which we save a lot of money for the town by housing animals for less than 24 hours.
Thank you, Jim.
Jerry,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
So,
All right, guys.
so very
Discuss it with
much.
Jerry,
Best way to
I
go.
see no issues,
Yes.
so
There's a resolution, so you want to approve it
we
tonight?
need a resolution to approve it.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
resolution on the
Yes.
agenda.
So
one on the
I'll
agenda.
make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-32.
Yep.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Any
Have a good
nays
evening.
or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you again, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry, for all your work. Really, thank you.
We're still jumping around?
Yeah, what are we doing now?
Okay, no, let's, well, I guess we have, let's get back into order, then we can, hopefully move through quickly. So, major projects, Steve, major projects, bus stops, and the like.
As the supervisor mentioned, the bench for the seniors has been put in place. We do plan to bolt that down, but we need to let the concrete cure for a couple months before we do that, but it will be done in the future. I think I mentioned last meeting that the HVAC at the Emergency Service Building has been taken care of. It's been running without any issues since they turned it back to us. Freno Plumbing finished up the restroom renovation over at the ambulance quarters, and we have that back online, and they're back in quarters. We're just buttoning up some trim items on our side of that project, but hopefully that's the last we'll hear from that one too. HVAC here at Town Hall, all of the leaks have been addressed. The system's holding pressure, has been holding pressure for 2 weeks. There's a very elaborate system, or procedure rather, than to bring these back online, and we're in the middle of that process now. They found some software glitches in the machinery that they're working out, and they couldn't be detected with the system in the previous condition. So hopefully in another week or so, that one will be behind us as well. We're about halfway through with equipping the carriage house down at Carnwath with camera system, security camera system. And that is we're in process of renovating a couple of the bleachers from Robinson Lane as well. Just before the end of the year, I ordered the materials to do that from the 2022 funds, and then I'll order additional then with the 2023 funds and continue that process as well. But we have a couple of those at the shop now that we're renovating. We'll have them back fairly quickly. Fencing at both Rockingham and Quiet Acres is finally coming in place. There was a personnel change at the vendor, and our job fell into a drawer that it shouldn't have. So I was doing some follow-up on that, and we're back online, and it was scheduled for today, but with the weather, we're going to attempt it again tomorrow.
They were actually looking to put fences up today?
Excuse me?
Did you say they were looking to put up fences today?
It was scheduled for today, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but with the weather, we're going to try again tomorrow, see what we have there. That is the extent of the project list. I wasn't aware that the bus stop shelters were on here. I can give you information on that from my previous knowledge, but I don't have any updated information on that, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, give us the history of those.
Right, okay, so previous supervisor took 4 bus shelters from the Dutchess County Loop bus system as a donation to be put up in the town of Wappinger. At the time, I went around a couple proposed sites with the town supervisor, or not town supervisor, town engineer rather, I'm sorry. And we estimated that the cost would be somewhere in the area of $50,000 per shelter to do the concrete base and the erection of the shelter itself. There would be issues with getting permissions from the property owners as well, and state DOT permissions too. And once that cost amount came in, it just kind of went in the closet. We have them in storage. We still have the units.
And my understanding was those bus shelters were a product of federal, state, and county funding through the Transportation Council to get those into municipalities. Jim, maybe you're familiar with that?
I do kind of remember that, and I know that there was, they were basically provided free of charge for it,
You had to apply for them.
Right, and I do recall that there was a discussion with respect to the Regency project. I think it was Regency.
I'm not familiar with that. I know what the proposed locations were when we
Where-
received them.
What were the?
Do you remember?
Yeah, one was in front of the Hannaford Shopping Center. There's already a concrete pad there. Unfortunately, it's not the proper size.
Okay.
And then directly across the street in front of Dunkin' Donuts.
That was another one, yeah.
Right, and then the other two, we're going to go down there at the, I think it's called Chelsea Cove Apartments.
Chelsea.
It's across the street
Chelsea
on
Ridge.
9D.
Yeah, one across the street from the other, one southbound, one northbound.
I don't know how that
Yeah.
would work.
Yeah, we couldn't find a spot that we consider safe.
So it
It's
seems,
not safe. There's people
Yeah.
standing on the side of 9D, and
Right.
cars are zipping by, and
it would seem
it's
to
not
me,
good.
though, that the state would provide for, the pad. I mean, in front of Hannaford Goodwill, there is what appears to be a pad, but it's the wrong size.
Right.
Without any access.
There's also a
Oh,
pull-off
that
there, too,
works.
for the bus to pull off.
Right, there's
the track.
actually a
Yeah.
pull-off. So that's the one I always think of, because it's a defined bus stop. The other one, when Duncan came in, which was recent, because there were a lot of things in that space, when Duncan came in, it looked to me, just driving by, that where that crosswalk comes across, that there was a double sidewalk there that appeared to be able to facilitate one of these. But again, if it's the wrong size and it's going to require, foundational work and things like that, that's where it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, the issue in front of Hannaford's is the grade.
Right.
It drops off very quickly
On the backside?
on the back side of the pad, yeah.
the same thing with 9D.
Right.
That's going to be tricky. I mean, you got it going up the hill and coming down the hill. And
Yeah, I don't know
again,
where it would
I don't
go
know
over there.
where, well, there's two
So
signs.
is there any kind of other temporary,
It's awful.
structure we can put up that would help? Because you've got people that are waiting outside, and if we're not going to be able to put these shelters up that are going to cost $50,000 per, pad, there's got to be another solution.
Yeah, we could buy bus stops, but the thing is, if I remember this, the reason why we got these is because they didn't cost us anything.
Right,
Right.
Again, it's typical government, right? It's not going to cost you anything except $50,000 to
to
mount
put
them.
them up.
Because we
And then you
can't
had a-
use it anymore.
Then they said we had to sign an agreement to maintain them, right? That was the whole thing. If they say loop on them, that needs to change because it's now branded as Dutchess County
Yeah,
Mass Transit
there
or
is no
public transit.
lettering on them.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So that said, it was a good discussion, but we're not going to have any answers tonight.
No.
I know that there's other opportunities in the neighboring municipality, perhaps, but again, do they have the ability to absorb, I'm referring to the village, do they have the ability to absorb that type of cost?
Right.
Who knows?
It's something that definitely has to be
We'll have to look at
fixed
it, though,
up.
I think.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Anything else?
That personnel issue, should I now or?
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Yeah.
I mean, just generally raise,
Sure.
the issue.
I found a candidate for one of the vacancies, and I'm very, very encouraged with him and would like to hire him. I didn't get the notice until today that he was going to accept the job, and we won't have another meeting for 3 weeks, I believe it is. And he gave us 2 weeks' notice today. So his name is Edward C. He's very well, it's S-E-E is his last name. He's very well qualified for the job. I actually had a couple of people that I know who have seen his work, and I'm very pleased with the reports on that.
So it's a budgeted position?
It is. It's
All right.
a
So
funded
I'll
position.
make a motion, we authorize the supervisor of buildings and grounds to hire the individual.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you.
How many,
Thanks, Steve.
how many openings do you have remaining?
Currently, there's there's two openings on for the skilled position. And then we need to work on that title change that we have spoken about previously.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Very good. Next item is Carnwath update. I asked Tim, to talk about this, and it's really relating to the grant. At my request in working with Tim, he got an extension on the grant because I wanted to have the chance to discuss it with the board. Unfortunately, the county is very adamant that it can only be used for senior, facility. And, I'm talking with all the seniors and fully agree with them, is that, they really don't want to move out there, and so are very hesitant in doing that. We've looked at the ability to perhaps use that money elsewhere, and Tim can report more on his discussion, and the answer is no, and looking at other options, including even with veterans, yes.
I was going to say, they wouldn't even consider this.
I don't want to push, with respect to the seniors, right? We don't want to do that, although we need the space. Then we're at this point where, we may have to forego the grant.
But they wouldn't even consider the veterans?
No.
No, 'cause
Now, Tim, why don't you report first
So
on
I'm not an
your
expert
discussion?
on this federal policy, but
Right.
HUD is the purveyor of the money, and they have classified groups of low to moderate income, or a group that's got its own sort of identity within it. I asked about veterans. They said currently they're not one of those groups. Seniors are. Seniors are because of the ADA issues and generally low to moderate income. They rattle off like foster youth services, substance abuse, child abuse, and HIV/AIDS clinics would all qualify as these sort of low to mod income groups that would qualify for the funding. So currently, any sort of option on VA is I'm saying VA, but veterans, is not an option. I asked about expanding or doing improvements here. They felt the town does, just let me try to get this. The town is not a low to mod income place, and to do like an expansion of an existing senior facility would not qualify. I haven't done an analysis to see if there are deficiencies here that could be improved. I know kind of separately we're looking at the town hall parking, and part of that is where do we draw the line? We're talking about doing work in the back, but we could maybe look at doing 2 new, or at least 3 new entrances, 2 on that and 1 on this side where there is the ADA ramp access to the door. So we could try to feather together a project and resubmit, but I think the point is the county needs to know sort of, are we in or out? We applied for these extensions as it was applied for, and I think we're kind of.
So these are the 2 grants, the $150K plus the $50K.
150.
But the
Or is it the
50K for the MIG, we're advocating, to still consider that if that's what the board wants to do, because that would be starting to lay infrastructure for future development of the center there. So and it's a different set of rules because of the way the funding is, and that is still allowable. So we could just use that money toward the water service.
So using the term senior center is the only thing that applies for the 150. You can't say community center.
No, we try.
It's not applicable.
We try.
And this is under HUD?
HUD distributes it through the county on the CDBG. And the way she explained it was, it's not even like we could build something new, ADA.
No,
it needs to
get
be
it.
removing an obstacle that's
Existing.
precluding ADA access. So she used the example of it's an existing sidewalk, a tree roots grow up. It's like you can use this money to replace the
Fix
tree
it.
and fix that. But to build a new walk where there isn't one,
So the 50K we talked about putting water into the Reese building, correct?
Yeah.
What is the total cost? 50K is the grant. Is it?
50K is the grant, and we're estimating about 140. I mean, we got to get some approvals in place, but that should be ready to go to bid here pretty quick. So that would be another option. Do you want us to go ahead and get that to the point where it can go to bid?
140 in total or 140 in addition to the 50?
140 in total, so 140 less 50.
So 90K. So the board would have to approve 90K to do that? Okay.
This is an estimate, we'd have to bid it, though.
Yeah, I think we should go to bid on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Too. I agree with you.
I'll make a motion, we authorize the engineer to prepare a bid for that project.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
Just out of curiosity, how long was this extended till? Did we have to,
Well, we've submitted all the paperwork, we don't have the extension back. We've got dialogue that the county's inundated and that, reassured that it's not going to disappear, but
so in other words, we have time to go
Roughly,
out
how
for,
much time do you think we have?
probably through the end of the year, I think we
Okay.
applied for it, so.
That's
so we,
good to know.
so we have time to go out for bid. It's not like you got to have it in 2 weeks or a couple months. Okay.
And then a sidebar item, we talked about and reviewed our structural engineer's findings of the building and the wall collapse, so that's another piece of work that we're ready to go to bid on if the board approves that. We're estimating that to be in the $50,000 to $70,000 range for the wall repair. But that would be another thing. Now would be the time to get that out if we're going to do it.
I think we should have more discussion on
I
that
agree.
point.
Yes.
Okay, but thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Anything else, since you're sitting here, other issues?
What else you want to know?
Any other good news,
Yeah.
Tim?
How's that garage coming along?
Well, the garage is progressing nicely. They're working on the skin, we're getting ready to start the foundation for the new addition. Steel's on its way. I think it was March when they were looking at that. So the weather, knock on wood, is somewhat cooperating.
Are we going to have it done in 2023?
Until we're ready, yeah. Well, so there's other items. Remember, we talked about relocating the renovation piece that
Right.
was in the old building to this building. So that could add some timeline. And before I commit on a timeline, I want to see the steel on the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Tim.
Progressive.
Thanks for the work on that.
Thank you, Tim.
Any other questions for Tim?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is a proposal for RFPs for town planner, attorney, and engineer. I think collectively we do it, but Al
Yeah, so
is going to talk about it.
Yeah, so, in the past, we've done this every year. We've gone out for an RFP. It doesn't mean necessarily we're going to change our professionals, but I think it's good practice, business practice, to go out there and take a look. Again, we'd like to do an interview. I think that the town board would probably like to do interviews with everyone, make sure we're all on the same page with a lot of things, and I think we are. But again, this is something I think is good business practice. We go out there, again, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change the professionals, but again, we should take a look and see if there's other options out there, so don't take offense to that.
No, I don't think any professional would take an offense on this. It also opens up the door to other businesses that are new and up and coming, and competition is key to success.
Actually, a friend Eric's here tonight. Eric is a planner, does planning work. I asked him to just maybe give some comments on what
Who's
the planning
Eric? I'm
environment.
sorry.
Right here.
Oh.
Eric, come on up. Just introduce yourself. It's
So my name is Eric Duden. I'm with Barton and LaJudas, and we're a full-service civil engineering firm. We do planning, any kind of infrastructure, environmental, all of those kind of things. One of our project managers is Jeff Foster. He's also here joining me, and so if there's anything that the town needs, and I know Richard and I have had a short conversation in regards to planning, engineering services, those kind of things, we'd sure be happy to.
I think more, talk about just the planning efforts that you do, how you work with other municipalities. I was intrigued, so.
So it depends on, the particular community. A lot of times we'll get involved at very early stages in grant writing, and then we'll go into a comprehensive plan. That oftentimes the comprehensive plan leads to a number of different, goals that the community may have. So that's where a lot of the planning, the local planning, we also do that as well with the planning boards. And that's just, day-to-day, normal, infrastructure type things that are required and making sure that everything is, to a certain engineering professional standard.
So I think, part of the point being is that there are other planners out there.
Of course.
And I, know Eric and.
What other towns do you work with?
There's a variety. I don't.
Let's say Dutchess County. Are there any in Dutchess County?
So right now, we're doing planning for Stanfordville, which is close.
Okay.
I personally live in LaGrange, which is a neighbor community. I don't know, there's a number of them. We have offices in Ulster County. I reside in New Paltz, and Jeff is down in Somers. So we're pretty active throughout. But like I mentioned before, we work in a variety of different disciplines. So one community, we may be doing some facilities improvements. Another community, we may be doing a wastewater treatment plant or a water
Well,
line.
if you could send us what other municipalities locally that you have worked with, I'd like to speak with them also.
Sure.
Just to get some
Sure.
feedback.
And, we do the RFP, and then, certainly we'll let
Thank
you
you.
know.
So what I'd like to do is set up a timeline for the RFP. What's reasonable, 6 weeks to do an RFP?
Probably.
8 weeks?
Let's
You
set
tell me.
one. Let's do 8, just to be on the safe side.
All right, so I think that's the 27th of March.
Oh, it
Does that
is.
sound reasonable?
Really? We're ready?
Well, I mean,
Yay.
let me just say, I mean, I've been through this many times, and I agree that it's healthy to do this. However, we have to be conscious of the fact that we have a significant workload here moving into this year, and by doing a full RFP on the planner, attorney, and engineer, and taking time to evaluate each one of these professionals, I mean, we could receive 8 of each one. We could be going through 24 different proposals here, and I'm not sure when we're going to be doing this, because unless we have separate meetings set up, and, right now, we have 15 discussion items, I think, tonight. So we start getting into the meat of this year, and, you're talking hours and hours. So we need to have a streamlined approach if we're going to do this, because it can be a pretty robust process.
I agree, and I think the board agrees, but I think it's something that we need to do.
So what's your proposal to streamline?
I wouldn't do this. We're going to be,
Okay.
my personal opinion is we're coming into, you'll be at the end of the first quarter by the time we're even evaluating these proposals, and this administration, winds down at the end of this year. There's an election in November, there's a reorganizational meeting in January, so if we're at the point where we're receiving RFPs at the end of the first quarter and we're evaluating them for a period of time, are we going to be appointing new professionals in the last 25% of this 2-year term? That makes no sense to me.
I think it's important that we open it up to, like I said before, to businesses to compete. We have young entrepreneurs coming in, businesses, and I think they should be given the opportunity. If you want to streamline it, let's make it 6 weeks.
I don't support this.
Okay.
Because
That's
I think
fair.
we're going to be creating a situation where we have a number of projects that are currently underway. We're trying to get to the finish line at the end of this year. We keep saying year 2023, we're going to be doing this. How are we going to get to the finish line on these major projects when the professionals that are working on them don't know if they're still going to be here?
So what I'd like to suggest is that we, table this talk in executive session.
That's fine.
Because there are some legal issues related to this that we,
Okay.
I think, want to address. And so if we do
That's
that,
fine.
then I think we can figure out.
This can't be the first time that we've had a number of, say, issues, concerns, whatever, in the past.
And we've done RFPs in the past.
We have, so I listen,
But I
we can
agree
talk
with
about an
those.
executive, that's fine, I have no issue with that. And I'll be willing
What
to
I'll
listen to
say, though, is the way it's been done in the past is it's been done in concert with a reorganizational meeting
Yeah,
that
I
happens
agree.
on an annual,
Yeah.
on a biannual process, when a new town board takes its seat. That's generally not at the end of a 2-year term.
So let's discuss this.
Okay.
So, because there are some issues related to that, I want to
That's
just
fine.
discuss with you.
That's
Okay? Okay, good, thanks. The next item is Myers Run Subdivision Drainage District. Barbara, did you want to just talk about that? And I know we have Mr. Lund, but Jim, why don't you address it first? What's at issue here?
So this is just this was a condition of the subdivision approval. The Myers Run subdivision has been approved. There's 2 lots in the subdivision, or 2 existing parcels, which I believe creates 12 lots.
Yep.
So there was a petition and map plan and report that was submitted, and to finalize the process, the town board needs to have a public hearing, at which time it considers the petition and the map plan and report. Basically, what the drainage district does is it provides for maintenance of the drainage improvements within the subdivision, and the swales, the catch basins, things of that nature. And the proposal here is $231 per year per lot at the outset. Typically, after that, the costs are a lot more minimal. It's, basically just inspections and an annual cleaning. A lot of the sub-drainage districts that we've established, there's quite a bit of money that's been on hand. So $231 per lot seems like a big number, but it basically only happens up front, and it decreases over time. The cost of the drainage improvements in accordance with the petition is about $85,440. So this is just an order calling the public hearing, which I put it on for the February meeting. 27? Okay. And that's about it, if anybody.
And Michael's here, and I understand, from Barbara that, with respect to escrow, fees, $5,000 has been paid, and you're going to bring in a check tomorrow. For the rest?
Yes, Michael made contact today.
Michael made contact today with you. Okay, so he's addressing that. Okay. So since this is a planning board requirement to go do this, and there would be just scheduling the public hearing at this point, then I see the only thing that we have, what is the next item for the 27th, was to discuss code, amendments and changes, which we've been discussing for a while, and have that on the 27th rather than a Saturday. If we need a Saturday, then fine, but busy time of the year. So that would then be the only thing that I intended, unless there is some emergency or other extraordinary issue on the 27th, is to have the public hearing.
So do we need a motion for the
Yes,
public?
yes, that's
I'll make
right.
the motion for the public hearing on the
Are
27th.
we doing, so is it the 27th, or would it be a different day?
Joe is saying 27th.
Okay.
Motion?
Aye.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Okay?
Thank you.
The next item is the scheduling, February 27th board meeting as a workshop for E-code and town code amendments. And I think, Barbara, the plan is, that's work in progress, but to get, written, why don't you explain to the board what our current plan is on getting written documents so they can have it before the meeting?
Sure, so I'm working with Liz, one of the planners at CPL, with Jim and other people to update your subdivision code, which is severely old, and it doesn't make sense for us. It's missing too many things that we need to take care of, so we're hoping to get you a draft in the next 2 to 3 weeks so that you have plenty of time to read it before the workshop. And we're also looking to address some fees and fines, more on the fines, that we also will give you an update ahead of time in draft form, so when we go to discuss it, you've had time to look it over, so that this time we can actually see what changes you want made before it goes into final form.
I know you had
Thank
talked
you,
about
Barbara.
the E-code, which would be the electronic version of this. I would also ask the town board and Barbara, everybody would be down at the Association of Towns.
Yep.
We need all-encompassing software.
Yep.
for our town.
Agreed.
So if you see it, just get some literature on it so we can look it over.
Agreed.
And, you know, whatever, as we know, we bought software last year, and it's still sitting there.
So the problem in the past, if I may say so, is that each department, when they have a need, or it's crashing, or it just becomes outdated, you know, it might be this year, and then 2 years later, another department, and everybody wants what works best for their department.
Right.
And years ago, I did look into quite a few modules, and the hub of it usually is with the town clerk. And then each department feeds off of it, and you can turn information on and off so that certain things are proprietary to, say, the assessor that we don't all need to see, and that, but I think that's where the head goes, it goes to the clerk. So keep in mind that if you're gonna do that, I think we had, Bass showed us, you could buy 1 or 2 modules, starting with, say, Mr. Paoloni's, and then in time, because of the cost prohibitive of it, you could add other modules for other
Right.
departments.
See, the problem I see is the assessor's office, your office, and the planning,
Control.
the water and sewer do not talk. That's a problem, and that needs to be fixed in this day and age.
I'm
It can't be
100%
that
behind you
difficult.
on that.
I know you are, and we've spoke about this. I spoke with Mr. Roberts, and he's also pursuing the software that needs to be implemented, or whatever's out there. But in today's environment, all of those should be talking together so we do not miss things. And that's like my councilman, Mr. Chris said, sorry, that Chris said, long day. People that are going to the city, yes, there's going to be software people down there. We need to get this information, and we need to implement it in this town. We need to all be able to communicate. There's absolutely no reason why we're not. I think it's a problem when certain departments go and get what they think is best for their department, and they're not all together. And I think it should be focused. Yeah, no, it is a problem, and I know we've spoke about it, and I think going forward, any changes need to be okayed by our consultant, Craig Roberts, before any department goes and buys anything. And I don't know how we do that. And I think that's important.
We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on software here.
Yep.
Since I've been here. Hundreds of, probably millions on software that have crashed, and companies have been purchased by other companies. There's been no support. It's completely, it is a very challenging thing. What there needs to be is a platform, and it's got to exist, a platform that is provided by a reputable company that has a history that is properly supported and is interdisciplinary across departments. It's got to exist, and there should be individuals standing here giving us a presentation on that. It can't just be for this department because this is what our neighboring town uses, or it can't be just for this department. It's got to be cross-departmental.
Exactly.
And I don't know why it's such a challenge for us to keep something for more than 5 years. And it seems like every 5 years we have the same problem.
I agree. And I think having major corporations right up the road, I think maybe we should be investigating them to see if they could help with our problem, because they're world-renowned and they know the systems.
I'm sure they can solve our problems for about $7 million.
We don't know yet. But I think that's I just think it's something we need to do. Councilman Beal, Councilman Phillips, and the board, this is very important to us going into the future. So thank you, Barbara, for everything that you guys trying to
No,
keep
and I
everything
agree.
taped together.
You know, whether it's water and sewer, doesn't realize that a house has now gone online.
Exactly.
And maybe paper went, but somehow it didn't get to that
Exactly.
department. The assessor assessing, but we don't know that they're finding things aren't legal.
Exactly.
It is a huge problem, and we're not the only town that's having
No,
this.
of course not.
And going toward the future, you do need something that's cohesive.
But we could be the showcase if we get it, if we do it right. And we have that ability. I know we do. We have a good town and we have good people, and I'm sure we can do this. So I've been trying to find out
Making
too.
questions and inquiries in the city.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
And do we have any, has there been any success with E-code, leaving us high and dry? I mean, E-code will be at the Association of Towns. And I find it hard to believe that they purchased this most recent software that we were using and that there's no support, because they will be there on the vendor floor, and they're a reputable company. So I still don't quite understand why we're still having problems.
It's not working, right?
So, with respect to E-codes, they had sent, I had contacted them with a proposal, which I presented at the December meeting, where they would basically do a study of, an AI study of our code, existing code, to identify sections that were outdated.
Right.
So that was one of the proposals that we could discuss.
Right, but my understanding was, I don't know if it was Municity or
Yeah,
what.
with Municity, they purchased
They bought
Municity.
Municity, and then there was no support.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
That's a problem.
And they're also, I guess, involved in some respects with Laserfish. But I had provided some contact information.
I'd like to have some level of resolution before we see them in person.
Now, one of the issues that I recall is that the software for the assessor has to be approved by New York State, because there's a,
But that's fine. That's not a problem. Yeah.
What I'm saying is I just did a Google search to see what came up on that, and it says, state terminates contract for assessment software.
Terminates?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So in February of 2022, they awarded a contract to develop the next generation assessment software for New York State.
Oh, geez.
2 months later, they terminated the contract.
Yeah.
So we're not in the boat alone, so.
Well, my experience is anything that New York State touches, I probably don't want to touch. So if they're going to mandate what software we need to use now, and it has to do with assessments, that doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, so.
Yep. Okay. Move on to our resolution. So the next item is Resolution 2023-9, a resolution authorize the town supervisor, town highway superintendent, and town board to execute the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies. We have a list of proposed streets. I'd like to note that this is still somewhat in flux because we have other discussions with respect to possible roads or adding for paving, discussion with several of the council people. And Al, you wanted to comment too on this?
Yeah, so I think the thing we need to do is before we approve tonight, we need to make sure we know what it's going to cost us, because we're going to bond for this, because we did 2 years before, our 2 years has expired. So, with interest rates going up, the cost of asphalt going up probably from $70 to $100, we need to see what it's going to cost, because the proposal here tonight is to do 5.82 million, or sorry,
5.82 miles.
5.82 miles, sorry. And, it's going to be pretty expensive. It's going to be a lot more expensive than roughly 1.4 million we spent last year to do 7.1 miles. So I think we need a cost. Again, I know it's early. They haven't seen the asphalt costs yet. Jim, if we can get interest rates so we can kind of get an idea, let Frederick kind of calculate what it's going to cost us before we approve it, because we may want to cut back on the amount of miles we do this year.
Jim, by when do we need to approve the 284?
Before you start paving.
Okay, so we have flexibility on that. And like I said, we need to pave, the back parking lot, need to replace that base and pave it, so those costs for asphalt will have to
All right,
go.
I think we need to take someone out of Ward 1. He's got a lot of roads in this particular one.
I
So
wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to move to table this for further discussion.
No, I agree.
Not only in addition to the expense, but I'd like to have some Ward 1 representation on here. Again, I understand my roads are pristine in my ward, I get it, but I'm sure I can find something.
Yeah.
We'll put it with your playground, okay?
So, motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table. I actually Bill did, so I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor, Bill's
Aye.
motion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions, seeing none, the motion
There
passes.
should be a
Thank you.
form also that accompanies this.
Yeah, there
right?
is.
There is. There is one for that. Okay. The next item on the agenda, Resolution 2023-30, resolution honoring Black History Month in the town of Wappinger for February 2023. You have a copy of the proposed resolution. We'll have this entered into the record.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next resolution is Resolution 2023-31. This is a resolution authorizing release of security posted. Barbara, did you want to just make a few comments? I need to. It's pretty straightforward.
Very quick, Nissan posted a bond, the lighting that they had did not meet our lighting code. They didn't want to change it, the planning board insisted, they posted a bond. We now have confirmation and certification that the bulbs were changed, it meets the code, and thus I'm requesting you return their money.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Okay.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Resolution 2023-32 is already approved.
Right.
The final resolution before executive session is the acknowledgement of the correspondence log. This is Resolution 2023-33.
I move it.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Any items for special consideration or new business?
I just want to mention, I think it was since the last meeting, we had a pretty significant fire adjacent to Heritage in that 4-unit commercial building that's relatively new. I think that building was 2014 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a new, it was basically a passerby happened to see the building on fire. The alarm did not ring in on it. I've been in contact with the fire inspector about that. The alarm did not ring in, but the fire was above the detectors. But the burglar alarm didn't ring in. Nothing rang in. We took the doors and were able to get in there and put the fire out. So I just want to say thank you to all the first responders in the town and the adjacent departments that responded. That was a very large response because, as you can imagine, if you saw any of the pictures, it looked like the whole building was going to be gone. But due to I will say, the aggressiveness of those that were involved with putting that fire out, they were able to contain that to the roof structure, and the only damage to those units really is smoke and water damage. So hopefully we can get that business back open at some point soon, because it's still standing. That said, thank you to code enforcement for following up on the northeast corner of Goodwill's storage area, where it looks like a tractor trailer caught the corner a couple months ago, I guess, and it probably wouldn't have taken a snow load if we haven't gotten any snow really, but they shored it up so that it looks good now. They got an engineer's report, so thank you to code enforcement for following up on that. And I know we're working on the rear of Wappinger Plaza. Right. Because that right there is not looking too pretty, but I know that we're on top of it. Thank you.
And one other thank you to code enforcement is that they got the vultures out of the area behind Sonic. And I discovered the other day, I've been driving around saying, what's happening is actually somebody is feeding the vultures and going to other locations. I saw 20 putting out cracked corn. But anyway, thanks code enforcement for getting, and despite a little bit of the challenge of getting somebody out there to do it, but appreciate it for response.
And just in time for Popeyes to blossom out of the plaza. Okay.
Thanks,
Good.
Barbara.
Please, let's make that look as aesthetically pleasing as possible.
Yeah. So, anything else on that?
Lots of greenery.
A motion to go in executive
Make the
session for
motion.
contract
Second.
personnel reasons. Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you, everyone. Eric, thank you.